Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Journey to National Master. This episode is going to be the start of a very important tournament that I played at the end of last year, Open Figueira de Foz. And I'm going to tell you guys a quick story about this first round. But if you want to skip to the game, make sure to follow the stamp somewhere around the screen. So, yeah, go to that time. Okay, so for you guys that want to hear the story, so basically in the first round, the pairings got out super late. I was already on the playing hall. I didn't really have my phone, so pretty much I didn't know who I was playing. I knew that it was gonna be a strong player, but I didn't know the elo. I didn't even know that my opponent here that she was a title player. I just knew her name from the pairings that the organizers just posted on the wall. So, yeah, I was just going in with no real expectations. I wasn't really nervous, also because I just didn't know my opponent's elo. So, yeah, I was just like, let's just play. And I sat down on the board and I opened with c4, which is something that I never do, honestly. So yeah, I just decided, okay, let's just have fun. Let's just play c4. My opponent went c6 here. Of course, she's a WIM with a elo of 2262, which is like almost FIDE master. That's insane. So yeah, very impressive. But I didn't know. I didn't know during the game. So after c6, I played g3, and she played d5. So everything standard here, knight f3, and now she played bishop g4. And after bishop g4, I didn't know what to do. I was already out of theory by move 4. Like, this is move 4 now that I have to do, and I already didn't know any theory here. So I was on my own, thinking with my own head. And I was like, okay, like bishop f3, attacking my knight. I have a few options. I looked at knight e5, which I don't know. I didn't play knight e5. I ended up playing knight queen b3, excuse me. And I'll explain just in a second. But yeah, knight e5, it is an option, but I don't know. I felt like if my opponent played bishop g4, she's probably expecting knight e5, and I don't know, maybe something like bishop f5. And yeah, I don't really know what's going on in this position, to be honest. I thought that in the future there might be some ideas of queen d5, like putting pressure on my rook and in my knight and making me lose some tempos by coming back to f3. Yeah, I didn't really know. And I ended up playing queen b3. So the simple reason behind queen b3 is just I'm just putting pressure on b7, and that's it. I'm just putting pressure on b7. Here my opponent thought for a while and played bishop takes on f3, and I played e takes on f3, which is actually very interesting. I could have played queen takes on f3, but yeah, I didn't really want to move my queen a lot of times. Here maybe d takes on c4, wins a pawn. Maybe it's not very good, but it is an option that I didn't really want to allow. Also, I just felt like the queen on f3 wasn't really doing much, so I just took with the pawn here. And okay, this is looks like very bad for my pawn structure, and I can't really deny that. It is bad pawn structure, but in return for the bad pawn structure, I have the bishop here, and I'm still putting pressure on b7. So I'm ahead in development. So I guess I justified it with these reasonings, and it felt like okay, it's I can't be worse. It's like fine. I was optimistic in this position. My opponent played queen b6, which actually made me very happy because now I'm not the only one with the bad pawn structure. um, I take on b6, she takes back with the pawn, and here I play c takes d5, and she recaptures back, and we reach this endgame with this, not endgame, but queenless middle game, where there's a lot of imbalances, and that's very cool. And I guess this is probably not a theoretical position. I don't think so. So probably we were both thinking with our own heads, without any like opening theory, which is very nice. So yeah, let's just do a quick recap. So what are the good things about my position? I guess the bishop pair is the main thing about my position that is good. What is good? What is bad about my position? I guess just the weakened pawn structure and the lack of development here. Okay, so what's good about my opponent's position? I guess they have a pawn in the center, which is nice, gaining some space here, and they have a semi-open a file for the rook. So that's the good thing about position. The bad thing is, of course, also lack of development and this double isolated pawns, which can be very weak. So okay, very interesting. Here I played knight c3, just attacking the pawn on d5, very logical. My opponent defended with knight f6, I went d4, and yeah, d4, the computer feels like there's better, like bishop e2 or knight b5, but it's very logical, and I feel like it's very good to stop the d5 pawn and to open my bishop up. So yeah, I played d4, I think it's also good. My opponent played e6, and here I play bishop b5 check. My opponent played knight c6, and here I played castles, which I felt like it was a decent move. Maybe in this position I don't need to castle, maybe I can just play king e2 and develop my rook this way, but I felt like castles couldn't be a mistake. Felt very logical here. My opponent played knight e7, which makes sense. She wants to break this pin and threaten to take the d4 pawn. I played rook d1, which I feel like it's a very nice move. You know, centralizing my rook and defending the d4 pawn. I guess I could have played also bishop e3 to defend the pawn, but I decided to move the rook instead. I still don't know where I want to put this bishop, and I know that this rook probably belongs on d1 or e1, but yeah, I felt like it belonged on d1 for the moment. Here, my opponent played bishop b4, which makes a lot of sense, just threatening to take the knight and create a weakness on c3. But I played knight e2, which is a good move. If I played bishop d2, this pawn would be hanging, and I would be lost, almost. I would be much worse. But okay, knight e2 makes sense. Not allow my opponent to just take the knight and damage my structure even more. Knight e2, very nice move. My opponent played rook a5, which is, I feel like it's a nice move. The engine doesn't love it, but it makes a lot of sense to put pressure on the bishop on b5. Here I have two options, either bishop d3 or a4. I chose a4, mainly because I wanted to keep a blockade on the b5 square. I didn't really want to allow my opponent to easily get b5 and start undoubling these pawns, you know. So that was my reasoning with a4. King e7 makes a lot of sense by my opponent, and here I finally develop the last minor piece, the bishop f4, very active here on this diagonal and controlling e5. My opponent played knight a7, which makes a lot of sense, challenging my bishop. I bring the bishop back to d3, and here my opponent played h6, which, yeah, it's kind of a weird move, but it makes sense. You know, maybe in the future I was threatening to play bishop takes on h7, although I'm not really sure about that. And yeah, I guess my opponent just wants to move the rook and also maybe expand with g5, targeting this bishop. Yeah, this made me think for a long while. I wanted to figure out what was the plan to improve my position. Uh, and yeah, I guess it's not that easy to come up with a plan, but I actually played knight c1, which had a sneaky idea, which doesn't work. Here my opponent played g5, and after bishop e3 she played knight c6, which kind of allows my idea, but the trick that I thought that I was setting up with knight c1 was that if my opponent played b5, I thought that I could just take here. I literally thought that I could just take here because after um, knight takes on b5, I thought that I had like knight b3, and now I'm attacking the rook, I'm attacking the knight, so I'm gonna like win something here. But yeah, after something like knight d6, uh, knight takes on a5, bishop takes on a5. Although I won an exchange, this position is much better for black. According to the engine, black is dominating here with the two minors for the rook. So yeah, I actually misjudged this, but I guess my opponent also misjudged this, and she thought that my idea with knight c1 was very clever to stop b5. Although in reality, the threat was stronger than the execution. But okay, my opponent didn't really punish this. As I said, she played g5, knight c6, and now I get knight b3, and now there's no tricks here. She moves back, rook a8. I was thinking that maybe she could have played something like rook a7 and try to double on the a file like this, but I always have bishop e5 to cover a4, and then these rooks are kind of misplaced here on the a file. Maybe I can start counterplay on the other side of the board, so it's not that easy. Actually, a very very tricky position to play. Knight b3, rook a8, and here I strike with f4, which I think it's a very nice move. We reach this position where I have to start creating something, otherwise, my opponent is just gonna run over me, and I decide, okay, let's just try to undouble my pawns with f4 and start to target these extended pawns here. My opponent played f6 and played rook dc1, trying to, put pressure on the open file. And my opponent played bishop d6. We were starting to get really low on the clock here. Yeah, I think I had like 20 minutes maybe, and she had like 10 minutes. So I was up on the clock, but not by much. And we were on move 21. So you only get bonus on move 40, 30-minute bonus. So we were still very far away from the bonus time, and we still had a lot of moves to make. So it was actually becoming very tense here. After bishop d6, I played f takes on g5. She played h takes on g5, and yeah, I don't really know what's going on in this position. It's very interesting. I played bishop e5. I was very worried about this expansion with e5 at some point, because it feels like my opponent can get a really big center, although the king is very exposed here on the e file, and yeah, there can be some nasty tactics coming in. Yeah, I played bishop b5 though, just you know threatening to take the knight and take the pawn afterwards. She played knight a7. Here I went back to d3. She played knight c6, and here I kind of offered a silent draw offer here with bishop e5, saying, okay, if you want to repeat the position, I'm okay. If you go knight a7, I go bishop d3. And I basically did this because I didn't really know how to improve my position. And indeed, the computer says that it's about equal here. She didn't want to draw, of course. She's like 600 points higher rated than me. She's a master and stuff like that. She played knight a5, but here I very aptly took on a5, and after b takes on a5, I think my position improved quite a lot, because now um this C file is weaker, and I guess like now I have like a really strong bishop here, and yeah, I felt really good about my position. Like, I'm not really afraid of knight b6. I can always play b3, and yeah, that knight on c6 was very annoying, and I feel like without the knight on c6 now, like, my position is definitely better. I think knight a5 was a concession, and it wasn't that good, but okay, she had to do it if she wanted to play for win, right? So here, after b takes on a5, I played rook c2, just threatening to double on the c file and use the c file and control the c file. Very important. Here she played rook h7, and yeah, she has a threat of doubling on the h file. I guess if I play something like rook c1, very careless, she has rook a8 to h8, and now it's not it's impossible to kind of stop her from taking on h2. So yeah, you have to be careful about that. I played king g2, which is a very nice prophylactic move. uh if now she plays rook a h8, I can always play rook h1, so that's covered. And here we like we had she had like 3 minutes on the clock, and I had like 10 minutes on the clock, and we still have like more than 10 moves to reach time control. We are still on move 28 here. I just made my 28th move. She played rook g7, which I didn't really understand. Maybe she wants to play f5, f4. Uh, and here, I played rook ac1, very natural, and I offered the draw. Uh, yeah, I mean, I am clearly better here. But I am not gonna lie, I wasn't confident about converting this small advantage that I have, positional advantage. I just offered a draw, and she thought until she had like 20 seconds, so she spent like 3 minutes trying to figure out if she was gonna take the draw or not, and she ended up accepting the draw offer, and we drew. Uh, yeah, I drew against the WIM 2262, which is very nice. Although, I know that I should have gone for more, because in this position I'm basically calling the shots. But yeah, the reason I didn't really go for more here and I offered the draw was because of like e5. E5 looks like scary, and I mean, I guess I'm still better, but it's tough to know what to do, because if I take here, I guess she gets these pawns in the center, and they can roll down the board very quickly, and it's not really like obvious what I should be doing here. Also, like, okay, I can infiltrate with the rook to c8, but okay, what does that do? If I play like rook c8, I guess she can just take. Okay, so this was the first round. Actually, very interesting queenless middle game, and yeah, I ended up drawing a very strong opponent, so I'm very happy. Like, c4 for the win, like the English out of nowhere. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and in the next episode I'll be showing you the game of the second round, which I played against a 2400 international master. Stay tuned.